guys. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real. I'm Tara.
I'm Sheri.
And we're here to talk about some more mental health stuff. And the topic today, as suggested by our audio engineer today, so we give him credit. Thanks, Andre. Got Sheri's eyes lit up like some lights around a Christmas tree or a holiday tree, if that was going to offend you.
That's another topic that I'm not all about offending. I mean, not offending. I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that was sarcasm. That was a joke. Definitely. If you know me, you know that you're not going to offend me by wishing me a Merry Christmas. Like, please wish me well. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's not our topic for today. I'm going to let Sheri introduce it because I want to see where she wants to take this because I'm thrilled to hear this perspective.
All right. Andre had a great idea, which really brought out this idea of whether or not female clients versus male clients, if there's a big difference. And I don't know that the clients themselves are different. I mean, as clients, but as communicators, absolutely. That's one of the biggest things I notice. I hear, and I know I've said this before about that we all need to learn how to understand each other's languages. This is not a new topic. There's been about 1 million books, men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of idea that we really do live on different planets. Sometimes I honestly wonder how we can be in relationships long-term because of the way that we do communicate so differently. So I would like to put that out there to our listeners also, like send us some different conversations that you've had that have been very clear that we are not on the same page. Okay.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Call to action. Just come in and just send in your couple's arguments, things that are that show up where communication just is not matching. We're not seeing eye to eye. I also am going to make a call. If you're in a same gender, same sex relationship, I would love to get some of our little community data about that too.
Right. Because I don't think it's just a man versus women when it comes to relationships. Again, we do speak very differently. I agree. But I think when you're in a relationship as well, anybody that's in your space that often, that intimately, you are going to have a challenge with communication.
Yes.
Because you're going to push my buttons differently than somebody who's my friend that I can say, all right, I'll see you in a week, right? Or I'll see you in a couple months. I don't have to deal with your face. I didn't take that personally. But when somebody says to you, whether man or woman, you're thinking about going to the gym. Sorry, maybe too close to home. But when you're thinking about, are you thinking about going to the gym? Are you going to be, is that really what you're going to wear today? Or, certain things that are going to, maybe if I said that to my friend that I've been friends with for 35 years, I can get away with saying that. If a man says that to a woman, you better run.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
You're in
trouble because we've already extrapolated what we need to get from that comment. And your intention is no longer relevant.
Right. It may be a wonderful conversation that I just wanted you to come with me and have fun at the gym, or I wanted, you to be healthy.
Yeah, no, you called me fat.
Exactly.
You called me fat.
I
heard the word fat. That's
you heard
what
the
I
word
heard.
Fat, right. So maybe next time we'll get Andre on to hear his side of that, of what he meant when he said that. Oh, sorry, Andre. But when a man says to you something, why women, and I'm asking all women, and I'm not bashing you, but why do we do this? Because why is it when somebody asks you a question like that, do we take it to the worst point? We take it to, you just physically attacked me. Maybe it's just me and a lot of the women I speak to as clients, but, and I hear it from the men saying, I try to say things in the most delicate possible way, and it comes out as drama.
Yeah.
And I will take it for the women. I get it. I do it. and I'm trying not to.
Guilty.
But we're all guilty, right? So is it just, so I like that question. Is it just male-female relationships, or is it relationships in general?
Well, because you were touching on this, I think it's relationships in general, because the people who are closest to us, and that's romantic or otherwise, get the good, bad, and ugly of us, right? Mm-hmm. And when you feel attached to somebody to such a deep, intimate level, we trust that they won't leave us, right? Barring any adjustment or abandonment or any kind of attachment concerns, you build that trust. They're not leaving. So they get the bad and the ugly on top of it, right? And sometimes it shows itself up more to our partners, to our parents, siblings, children, because they're still there, right? I'm going to still see you tomorrow. So
you're going to have to deal with what I just gave you.
Yeah, this is how I'm going to show up. Whereas with friends, coworkers, acquaintances, strangers, right? We put on a bit more of a, dare I say, mask.
It's true. We put on our best self forward, right?
Or a version of our best self, right? So even as the mask unveils, we'll still present ourselves in a better light, whether it's to be likable, whether it's just to continue to build a bond, whatever. But that's what tends to happen in intimate relationships and really close friendships and families. You get to show up, and however you show up, the raw, uncensored, unregulated, unfiltered, and that's the acceptance. Now, I mean, obviously we can get into a great conversation about boundaries too, but like I said, this is without any kind of concern or issue where we're talking about attachment or anything like that.
Oh yeah, forget it. Now if you throw some attachment issues going on in there, and when we say that, we mean, your dad didn't talk to you when you were a girl. Your dad didn't tell you the things that all girls need. So when we say that, that puts out this idea of why men and women are so different, which I think maybe was the original question. I'm not quite sure anymore, Andre, but the question of why we communicate so differently is because we have completely different needs.
Sure.
From my understanding, and I'm sure a lot of men may be able to tell me I'm wrong, but from my understanding, men need respect. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean we're ready to give it to them, but they need it, right? That's to the core. I'm the man. I need you to respect not my authority, but my
status. No,
I think it's more of that when I speak, what I'm saying is meant to help and meant to be appreciated in a different way. I'm not just telling you something because I want to fluff it, right? Where women, we talk in circles, probably like I'm doing right now, but we have a lot to say, and men are very direct and to the point. So if they're going to tell you something, they mean it, and they're saying it because they plan to follow through. With us, we're saying it out of emotion. We're saying it out of fear that you're not going to love us, that you're not hearing me. Tell me if you think I'm right. Wrong.
I was like, I don't think it even matters if I think you're right or wrong. I think because the original topic presented was the difference between men and women as clients.
Correct. But you see that in a session too, right?
So this is what I want to touch on, because in thinking about how my male clients are, I see a lot more analytic work being done, a lot more of intellectualizing and processing emotions and happenings and the crisis of the week as a project of analysis. And at the end of the session, I want to be able to understand why this happened the way it did. And for a lot of them, that's actually very successful for them. And we are able to uncover a lot and work through a lot. I'm working with a couple of my clients about getting away from crisis of the week and doing more of the underlying type stuff. So figuring out what these patterns are in our week-to-week sessions where you're catching these things. And that analysis works really well for them. But women seem to be, at least in my experience, it's more natural for them to kind of already get to the root where they're asking me, Tara, I don't want to talk about my crisis this week. I want to figure out why this is happening.
Right.
And they're ready to just jump into that. Whereas more often than not, I'm encouraging men to get into that root analysis rather than crisis of the week. Right. So there's the week and we're going to process it. Or there's a lot of stuff that happened before this week that have enabled you in these habits and you've got this routine going and we want to break those habits in that routine.
Right. And I think men are more habitual in that sense that they get used to speaking a certain way. At work, they're a certain way. When they're home, they're still that way. Where women are more, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. I haven't been around you or people all day, or haven't, my job is different than yours. And so men don't want to talk when they get home, and men are like, whoa, I need a break and I need to be able to just have that peace that maybe we're not. It's not that we don't need peace, but we're ready. We're usually, women are on. We're ready to be on.
Sure. Maybe this is just me being combative, but all I can think of are all the examples that contradict the examples you're giving me.
Of course, me too. So that's,
I'm like, that's not true at all for so-and-so and so-and-so.
True. All right.
I mean, that's healthy discord. That's
absolutely. And that's what
I can't paint anyone with one brush.
Yeah. But you notice that we can continue on with that, right? It's not no, this is the way it is.
Correct.
Sorry, I'm not bashing men. I'm just, men are very much a matter of fact, I think.
Don't worry, she'll get to bashing women very quickly.
No worries. I'm here. I'm an equal basher.
It's our turn next.
I'm an equal basher.
Anyone can get it.
No, I'm more about like, okay, this is my observation. And let me put it that way. I guess it's that I'm very much a natural observer. I may not be observing it the way everybody else does, but I am, I'm an Aquarius. I'm that very, Andre says yes. All right. I'm very aware when people think I'm not aware. I'm thinking past what other people are thinking, I think.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean I'm always right, but I'm definitely watching. Just don't worry.
We're paying attention. We are paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see a lot of those things in my work and just in my existence as a woman that interacts with men as well. And I interact with a lot of different types of people.
Right.
Just in the worlds that I balance between, whether it's me as a person, in my social life, in my family, as a therapist, as a mental coach. I have very different populations that I interact with. I mean, most of us do, right? We are dynamic individuals. We have different environments. One thing I was thinking about specifically that comes up not very often anymore, at least maybe it just doesn't show up for me very often, is when you were speaking to women that they're more on, like I haven't interacted as much. I'm ready for this, like my social battery to be charged by my partner. It makes me think of stay-at-home moms. So if you have young kids and you're not having adult conversations throughout the day, that can definitely be something that you need to lean into at night. And if you've got a partner who works all day and their work takes it out of them, they're not recharged by work, they're drained by it, or, whatever circumstance, they come home not fully themselves that you were when you were dating and not living together and making babies together. But then they come home and they're not ready to fill your cup and help you charge your battery in that way. Then that's a really difficult communication moment. And
absolutely,
you and I are often getting clients that will come and be like, I don't understand. Like, what I do all these things and I am this person in our marriage, I'm this person in our home, and like, why can't they show up for me in this way? You have to dig into, well, what are you asking and how are you asking for it?
Right. And I think that one lesson that I've learned throughout my life, I don't know that I practice it, but I've learned it, is that not everybody can love you or see you the way you need them to. And that's a really important lesson, that we think that other person has to be the one to fill our cup.
Yes.
And a lot of times we can't be the ones to fill their cup either, because they don't understand. I don't mean men versus women. I mean, the other person may not even understand that their cup is empty.
Yes. How do you build a language to ask for your cup to be filled. And what fills it, if you don't know what fills it, then how can you ask for specific actions? Or like if we're going to talk about love languages too, right? We don't all speak the same love language. If I want gifts and you want a hug, we're going to be both walk away from our interaction very confused and not feeling loved.
Right. Because like you said, that feeling of love it could be very different for somebody else. Yep. Right. Like if I'm in a relationship where when I wake up in the morning, I need a hug and a kiss, and the other person's like, God, don't even talk to me. I can't function in the morning. It's going to be disappointing for me. Right. I have to figure out that, I have to wait for that person to wake up and be able to function. And then I can get what I need. Or I can think that person doesn't want to have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that other people, you can be in a relationship with somebody that has a different love language than you. If you can learn how to give each other what you need at different times and be aware that I'm not always going to get what I need or want.
Yeah. The whole, the 50-50 conversation. And I'm not talking about the 50-50 financial conversation. I'm talking about showing up and then you showing up equally. I rarely see that in action. It's usually someone's functioning with a little bit less. Someone has a little more to give. Someone got a promotion. You should pour a little bit more. And I don't like the word should, but I used it. And most of us we're always going to have our stressors. We're always going to have our problems. So that 50-50 is going to teeter one way or the other throughout the day. And then sometimes you look back on a year and you're like, wow, I really leaned on my partner a lot this year. Or, wow, I really gave a lot this year. And that's okay. As long as you guys are coming together.
Right. I think in the end, if you can start to communicate and really figure out where, I really do hear you. I really do hear you. And it's really, sometimes the other person's not going to hear or understand that you hear them.
Yeah.
But being able to say, okay, I think this is what I'm getting, which, that's very much in a conversation in therapy too. What I think you're saying is, right? Yeah. But going back to that same question in the beginning about whether male clients are different than female clients, I think those same male clients outside of therapy are different than they are in therapy. I know that's kind of sounds weird, but the idea is that the guys come in wanting answers too, just like women, right? They're afraid of feelings that they've had that they haven't been able to get out, or they don't understand why they have them. They're why also, I have a lot of guys who, once you give them an idea, they're like, wow, I didn't realize that could be it.
Yeah.
Right. And women too. So I think in that sense, we are similar, as we all just want to know, why do we behave this way?
Right.
Why is it that I need this? Why is this person not understanding what it is I'm trying to say? Why am I not getting what I need from other people? Why, again, why can't I sleep? Why can't I not be anxious? Why can I, why are these things taking over my mind? So that, I think, is very similar when it comes to feelings, men versus women. In my experience with clients, men are less likely to understand their feelings, right? So you ask, what are you feeling? All men know anger. All men, and I think most people right now, know the feeling of anxiety. Very little feel anything else of the men that I talk to, right? Yeah. It's not they don't feel it, but it's harder for them to connect with that.
Identify, tell a story about, right.
Right.
I have a lot, when I start, not a session, when I start, I guess, work with a newer client, and we catch that we don't have great language. We don't have great identification. I use it as a moment, like, explain it to me like I'm 5 kind of stuff, without I'm not talking down to anybody, but a lot of us were not taught these words and these codes and these fundamental behaviors that lend itself to understanding how emotions show up. And they become more nuanced with age. They show up in different ways, especially if we're talking about trauma. They show up in very interesting ways that don't match the predictable, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So teaching, and I do this with a lot of my women clients too. So this seems like an across the board thing for me. This is not gender specific, but I'll do things like emotion word wheels. Mm-hmm. Where we start with this core set that most people are familiar with: the anger, the happy, the sad, surprised, disgusted. I believe fear is one of them as well. Mm-hmm. And then you branch out and get into a more specific word like elation or, I don't know, frustration. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about, there's another layer that goes even deeper. It's a phenomenal tool. I think I found it first in undergrad as a literary tool. It was for an English composition class. And it's shown up to be extremely useful in practice.
Oh yeah, I've seen some really in-depth ones too that go really far, and I like that they show that anger is a lot of times because of fear, or anger is a lot of times because of embarrassment, or so it's very it's easier for a man to say they're angry, because that's an acceptable feeling for a man from the outside world, right? Women, it's easier for us to say we're sad or depressed, or we're anxious, right? Because that's, when you think of women, sometimes you think of nervous and too much, right? Sure, so I know that's terrible. I shouldn't have said that, but
if you want to get really historical, hysteria was
right. You didn't say that about a man.
No, it was specifically a woman's diagnosis. Right. It was a symptom of a woman to be hysterical. Right. And that to some point bled into today, where if a woman is expressing anxiety or sadness, there's some, not expectation, but it's familiar. Like, okay, I see this. We may not be comfortable with it. Right. But it's familiar to experience and watch it. I forgot. Go ahead.
Well, and that brings up, I've had more than a few clients on the male side telling me about, when they're having that conversation where they're trying to be gentle, and we go into the hysteria right? And the crying and the, I don't know any women that are not guilty of that, but I'm sure there's a lot that don't do that, but I'm going to say I'm guilty, right? But the idea is that it's hit a button in us that says, I'm not good enough, or you don't see me, all the things I've said before, but it's very frustrating. And I imagine that if my partner was that way and crying all the time when I said something, I would be very frustrated. So if any lesson is learned while we're discussing this, is that not everything has to be that way.
Yeah.
We don't have to be all or nothing. We don't have to be totally analytical and don't see a feeling side. And we don't have to make everything be about feelings. Not everything is about, like I would say to a younger kid, not everything's about you, right? Not everything's about you, right? Somebody's having a bad day and they said something. It doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person, and I don't have to take it as that. And that also goes back to what you were saying about attachment. And if you feel as a child, you didn't get the things that you needed, meaning I didn't feel adored or loved as a child, or somebody, because women need that. Women need adoration. Women need to feel special. Most women are that way, right? That's to their core, right? So if I don't feel that way, I'm going to go inward that there's something wrong with me.
Sure.
So men, that's what's happening. Just saying.
And then the understanding that even if you have these tools and these communication skills, there's still times where things feel foggy and unfamiliar. And usually you're in like semi-emotional crisis and you're like, I just can't understand what's going on. I just don't like it and I'm uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So it's not happiness I'm feeling. We can just knock one right off the list.
Right.
But that's okay too. If you're communicating with somebody who really wants to know what's going on with you, or, you're having even an argument, a conflict, and something has made you uncomfortable. I've taught this skill time and time again. I could really use it myself sometimes where It's just tell on both of us today.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's okay to say, I'm uncomfortable and I'm displeased with something that's happened or XYZ that's happened. I don't know how to talk about it right now, but that's what it is. Instead of saying, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
You ain't fine.
You're
girl.
not fine. None of us are fine. It's fine.
It's true, right? And we need to stop saying we're fine, right? But we also need to stop taking it to the nth degree. And this is with men and women, but when women were the ones that the hysteria came from, right? The term. But if we take everything to the nth degree or the worst case scenario, catastrophizing, right?
Yes.
We're never going to see that there's a possibility of any good.
Right. So just opening up the possibilities of this isn't okay. I don't know how to talk about it. I'm opening it up, but asking about it isn't going to make it happen any faster. But instead of it's fine, it's things aren't fine. Don't know how to talk about it later. If you can say that it's something that happened that you caused or a behavior that I saw you do, you can go ahead and prescribe that. But otherwise it's okay to open up with, instead of it's fine and you're really trying to translate, there's something wrong and I don't know how to communicate it yet.
Right. And I think that's the same way with a young child. And that's why we have to teach them that it's okay to communicate what's going on. But you know what, at the same token, we live in a time period where everybody is aware of all those buzzwords that we talk about, right? We're aware of what our problem is from a young age. Everybody, we overfeeling everything. When I think it's more important to be able to understand, yes, I do feel this. Now, what's the thought that goes along with it? Am I making this out to be something that it's not?
Feelings are not facts.
Exactly.
Feelings are not facts. They're a reflection of something that's going on. And it's our responsibility as an individual to try to understand what that underlying meaning, thought, behavior is.
Right.
It's not anybody else's responsibility.
I agree. And I think that goes back to that same idea of you only control yourself.
Yes.
Right. So if I can, and a lot of people will say, you made me angry. You made me feel this. Well, okay, the action caused a reaction. Mm-hmm. Yes. But you have the decision where to go with that from there. Yes. It's your choice whether or not to say, okay, I'm angry and I'm going to feel it and move through it, or I'm going to let it stay there and sit and fester and make everyone suffer for it. Now, that person didn't make me do that.
Right.
Their action caused a feeling in me. And now I am in control of whether or not what I do with that.
Yeah. It's not productive whatsoever to use your emotion as punishment for somebody else's behavior. That's inappropriate. It's ineffective. It's not going to get you through it. It's going to get you around it, and you're still going to be stuck with what happened in the first place.
Right.
Because you and I have had some discord about, I think we fundamentally agree, but I don't believe that we don't choose what makes us upset. Because if we chose what makes us upset, we would be upset about anything.
Yeah. And I think that was a disagreement based on that same distinction
It's the reaction.
Right. It's the reaction.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Right. Because things happen. We have visceral reactions to things. Right. Hence my face. Hence, my
rolled eyes a couple minutes ago.
Yeah. Our body reactions to things, physically feeling sick in your stomach because something said something, or reminder of the way somebody looked at you versus how somebody looked at you in the past. If you have, your dad or your mom makes a face and you see somebody else do that face and it causes, oh my gosh, I'm going back there as 3 years old again or whatever. Yeah. Right. Those kind of things cause literally a reaction in your body. So I do agree that we don't have control over that, but we do have control with what we're going to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The power of saying, I feel this way. Mm-hmm. You take ownership of it. And then having that ownership helps you move through in what's going to be productive for you. So going back to love languages, even and outside of romantic relationships, the love languages serve us really, really well when you understand them. As you can tell, I'm a believer in the 5 love languages. Not everybody is. I'm a big proponent of them because I think they help simplify something that is so complicated.
Absolutely.
In our existence. So I'm feeling frustrated, a way that I feel relief is by receiving a hug. A way I feel relief is by offering myself a gift. So explore those things for yourself to be able to offer them to yourself. The number of times my client hear me say, what if you offered yourself compassion? What if you offered yourself a moment of peace because you can afford it?
Absolutely love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because so many times we don't give others we don't give ourselves what we give others, yep. Right? And then also on the flip side, sometimes we expect from others that what we would give to other people, and we get disappointed.
Yeah.
And, disappointed, if you learn that when you're young, it's easier when you get old. But that's a theory, right? Mm-hmm. But the idea of, if I have expectations, which to me, that's a dirty word, right? Expectations are things that usually I'm tied to an outcome that the other person has no idea about.
Yes. Expectations only matter when they're communicated.
Exactly. And even then, right? Again, I can only control myself. So if somebody tells me, I'm going to have the dishes done by the time I get home, mm-hmm. right? I have an expectation of that. Like most people would have an expectation that's going to be done.
Yeah.
Now, if my husband said that, they're going to be done. If my 17-year-old or 18-year-old said that, I may expect that ain't going to happen, right? Or I'm going to be so happy when I go home that they actually did what I said, right? So I have to tailor my expectations a little differently. It doesn't mean I have to dumb them down. I have to know who I'm dealing with.
Yeah, you have evidence and patterns that you can rely on.
Right.
A lot of the times when expectations kind of come to ruin us there is no evidence. There's no communication. Exactly. There's no pattern. We're maybe hoping for the best, which I'm fine with hoping for the best. What if? Mm-hmm. Then what? Because you're tied to that outcome. If that outcome doesn't come true, are you able to roll with it?
Exactly.
If you're not able to communicate an expectation, then what?
I didn't get the memo. How am I supposed to know that that's what you wanted? Right. And so I hear that, going back to the male versus female clients, that they'll say, my wife, I want her to give me a list of things she wants me to do, or tell me what she wants me to do. I don't know what she wants. And then the woman is saying, well, isn't it obvious? This kitchen needs to be cleaned, or there's crap left by the door, or there's this or that. Why can't you just see it needs to be done and get it done?
You live in this house too.
Right. Yeah, right. We all think that way, but to that person, that may not be priority at that moment. Right. Or they may just be overwhelmed because there's so much they don't know where to step in.
Oh my God, there's a phenomenal TikToker that talks about this, and he speaks a lot from personal experience. He is divorced and took what he lacked in that marriage, and now makes these phenomenal TikToks. I'd love to credit him, but it would take me a while to find it. So I'll find a way to
we'll bring him up again.
Oh my gosh, yes. We'll bring him on the podcast.
Sure, that's awesome.
I'm not just going to share him. We're going to invite him. And there was a very funny one I saw recently where, because he portrays the wife and the husband. He has a gorgeous wig.
Oh, it was a wig. Oh yeah, I love that one. Yes.
And she's like, honey, our guests are coming for this party. We have to get ready. Can you help clean up? And he goes to the backyard and starts trimming hedges or tree branches. And she's like, that's not what I meant. I need you to clean up inside. Goes to the attic inside the house. And then I turned it off because I think I was getting offended by a skit on TikTok. She's like, no, I need you to vacuum. Let me just make this very clear for you. I need you to vacuum. And he's vacuuming in the attic.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
But it's a caricature of something that you and I see all the time.
Right.
It's so literal, but it really does happen.
Well, because sometimes people are that literal.
Yes.
Right. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It doesn't mean that, they're autistic or they're whatever. Right. It just means that that's how they think. And if you know your partner well enough, which unfortunately a lot of people I think really don't, because your partner is somebody that you have glamorized or villainized, mm-hmm. To a point where, they just don't pay attention. They're just stupid, right?
That's such a good point, that we create the fantasy in one direction or another of who our partner is. And I would hate to rob people of that because it's a really nice experience. But when it comes to, that's nice. But then when it comes to you're sitting in the chair and couples counseling and you're practicing all these interventions that end up being very, very difficult for you two, that's where we're really coming up short with how we communicate and how we come into this relationship and how we come into the next stage of our lives. So men versus women, not versus, just the differences.
Right.
There's absolutely a way to communicate these differences and just communicate them as this is how I show up. How do you show up? How do you like to receive this? How can I portray this to you? When you experience conflict, absolutely revisiting that conflict, which a lot of people like to avoid. And this is, I'd like to think this is good advice for friends and family too. In conflict, revisit it and literally go through film, as I would tell my athletes, go through film and figure out what went right, what went wrong. What are we repeating? What are we adjusting?
Absolutely. I agree. Because otherwise we're going to keep revisiting that same, you did this to me over and over again, and we're never going to move forward.
No, and then we're talking about resentment, which is not something we want to be talking about. That's preventable for the most part. Right.
Back to prevention. I like that. Okay. Good.
Anything else on that one?
I don't know. I think we busted that one out as much as we could.
I think so. But this is like, we could trail into so many things because we started kind of focusing on relationships or intimacy, and I could have an episode and a half on dating and my views on dating.
Oh, and I have somebody that is writing a book right now that I would love for her to be on. And I know she listens to this podcast. And I think that, the book, I'm going to call it out. The book is I Swiped Wrong. So, and it's such it's a great storyline of how things went wrong and each person, what happened. And then by the end, learning, you know what, I don't have to give up my boundaries and I don't have to say yes because somebody looks at me and gives me appreciation. So that's a great understanding that I guarantee you that somebody else, a male, could write the same book from a completely different perspective, but still have the same problems. It's just seeing it from the other side.
Sure. Yeah, I like that. Yes. Invite her. That would be awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to this. And this is something that we really need you guys to sound off about. Like we need perspective. We want more voices. Like this is something that Sheri and I, as both women, we only have so much perspective we can offer.
Right.
So if you got a personal URL for link for this episode, it's because I expect you to give some feedback that we can share because I really need it. Because we can also be in our echo chamber and that's not helpful either. So we really want this to be engaging. Absolutely. So email, as always, Let's Be Real with Sheri and Tara. That's SHERI. And then our socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is at Let's Be Real, Sheri and Tara. DMs are open. Comments are open. Inbox is open. So
we're ready for you.
We can't wait to connect with y'all. And thanks for tuning in as always.